At least 1 dead and 11 wounded is the preliminary balance of the protest in the community of Petit Gulf in the west of Haiti. Venezuela's President Nicolas Maduro received in the Miraflores Palace the credentials of the ambassador of the Republic of Colombia, Armando Benedetti. The Ukrainian armed forces have shelled the central territory of the Zaporiya nuclear power plant on the eve of a visit scheduled by the International Atomic Energy Agency. From the headquarters of TeleSUR English in Havana, Cuba, this is From the South. I'm your anchor, Gladys Quesada, and these are the news. At least 1 dead and 11 wounded is the preliminary balance of the protests in the community of Petit Gulf in the west of Haiti. Demonstrators protest the indiscriminate increase in the prices of basic products and the inability of the government to control the climate of violence that is ruling the country. According to witnesses, the victims suffocated in the cloud of tear gas used by the police to disperse the crowd, while police authorities reported that 2 people were seriously injured. Supporters of Prime Minister Ariel Henry are reported to have infiltrated the crowd and caused injuries to several demonstrators with stones. Social unrest have been frequent during the last 2 weeks, as this Monday violent and multitudinous incidents were also reported in the Haitian capital Port-au-Prince, in rejection of the high cost of living, insecurity, and fuel shortages. Former Brazilian President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva maintains a 12 percentage point lead over current head of state Jair Bolsonaro ahead of the October 2nd election. The survey by the Brazilian Institute of Public Opinion and Statistics showed Lula with 44% of voter support against 32% for Bolsonaro in the first round of the election scheduled for October 2nd, the same percentage of a poll from 2 weeks ago. In case of a second round runoff, the poll also showed Lula's lead with 50% of voter support, while Bolsonaro got 37%. The survey was the second national poll of voter intentions and was based on interviews of 2,000 people in person between August 26th to 28th. Argentinian judge Roberto Gallardo instructed the mayor of Buenos Aires to cancel the police operation mounted for several days around the residence of Argentine Vice President Cristina Fernández. The judge ordered Mayor Rodríguez Larreta to cease the execution of any police operation linked to the custody of the person, family, and/or domicile of the former president. According to the order, the Minister of Justice and Security must ensure the common tasks of the police in the prevention and prosecution of crime in the surroundings of the vice president's domicile. The area remained fenced all the weekend and surrounded by riot forces to disperse thousands of sympathizers and followers of the leader who gathered to support her despite strong incidents of police repression. The former president's son suffered police violence when he tried to access his mother's house. On Tuesday, Cuban people and the island's authorities lamented the death of Camilo Guevara March, the son of the Cuban-Argentine guerrilla commander Ernesto Guevara de la Serna, Che. Cuban President Miguel Díaz-Canel took to Twitter to express his condolences. With deep sorrow, we said goodbye to Camilo, Che's son and promoter of his ideas as a director of the Che Center, which preserves part of his father's extraordinary legacy. He also expressed his deepest condolences to his mother, Aleida, to his widow and daughters, and to the entire Guevara March family. According to Cuban media, Guevara March was visiting Caracas in Venezuela and passed away as a result of a pulmonary thrombolism that led to a heart attack. Camilo Guevara March, Che's eldest son, was 60 years old and worked intensely to preserve the legacy of the man who was a paradigm of the revolutionary and anti-imperialist struggle for millions of people in the world, especially in Latin America. Secondary school teachers in Uruguay paralyzed activities for 24 hours in rejection of the educational reform promoted by the government. The action taken by the Teachers Association will be accompanied by a meeting between the Teachers Training Union and the authorities of the Education Training Council to try to reach agreements. At the same time, a mobilization was called to the subsystem's headquarters, which will be supported by the teacher training students of the country. The demonstrators denounce, among other things, that the union has had no participation in the construction of the educational reform promoted by the government of Luis Lacalle Pou. Chile's Minister of Foreign Affairs, Antonia Urrejola, replied on Monday to the remarks made by the Brazilian President Jair Bolsonaro about Chilean President Gabriel Boric during the first debate of the presidential campaign.
Of Chile, I would like to make a statement in relation to the remarks made by Brazilian President Bolsonaro yesterday in an electoral debate where he directly accused President Boric of having burned the subway. As a government, we believe that these statements are extremely serious. They're absolutely false, and we regret that in an electoral context, bilateral relations are taken advantage of, and bilateral relations are polarized through disinformation and false news. As has been pointed out on other occasions, disinformation and false news undermine democracy, but also in this case they undermine bilateral relations. We are absolutely convinced that this is not the way to do politics, and furthermore, it is not the way to do politics when we are dealing with two democratically elected heads of state.
We'll take a short break now. Join us again after this. Welcome back to From the South. Venezuela's President Nicolas Maduro received in the Miraflores Palace the credentials of the Ambassador of the Republic of Colombia, Armando Benedetti. Venezuela and Colombia met again in a handshake that vindicates the flags of unity of the liberator Simón Bolívar after the breaking of relations in 2019. This event marks the resumption of diplomatic ties with a view to reactivating the economic relations between both countries. The Venezuelan president and his Colombian counterpart Gustavo Petro have expressed their will to work on healthy relations based on mutual respect and cooperation. Colombia's ambassador expressed on his Twitter account that at this time we are received at the Miraflores Palace by the President Nicolas Maduro, before whom I present credentials as ambassador of Colombia in Venezuela. We talked about the urgency of re-establishing the bonds of friendship that should never have been broken. The Venezuelan head of state also received the credentials from the ambassador of the Sahrawi Arab Democratic Republic, Mohammed Salem Al-Ergebi. The new ambassador replaces the Sahrawi diplomat Mohammed Salem Daha Lebib, who performed these functions in the South American nation since 2013. Venezuela and the Sahrawi Arab Democratic Republic have maintained excellent high-level relations since 1982, promoting reciprocity ties. Maduro reaffirmed his government's commitment to the cause of the Sahrawi people, while expressing his support for the consolidation of the independence of this African state. The World Health Organization's Europe Director Hans Kluge said on Tuesday the monkeypox outbreak may be slowing in the European region. Kluge stated that there are encouraging early signs, as evidenced in France, Germany, Portugal, Spain, the United Kingdom, and other countries, that the outbreak may be slowing. He said, meanwhile, that COVID-19 continued to pose a risk, with the region projected to reach 250 million cases in a matter of weeks, a third of the global record since the pandemic began 2.5 years ago. The WHO's Europe director also sounded the alarm on a resurgence of the polio virus in several countries, urging communities to get vaccinated as soon as possible.
We anticipate a surge in cases, with the European region recording more than 22,000 confirmed cases across 43 countries and areas, representing more than a third of the global tally. There are encouraging early signs, as evidenced in France, Germany, Portugal, Spain, the United Kingdom, and other countries, that the outbreak may be slowing. To move towards elimination in our region, we need to urgently step up our efforts. Yet we believe we can eliminate sustained human-to-human transmission of monkeypox in the region if we commit to doing so and put the needed resources towards that end.
Families and friends of victims who went missing during the martial law era of late Philippine President Ferdinand Marcos Sr. marked the International Day of the Disappeared with a gathering in Manila on Tuesday. They voiced their demands for justice for their missing loved ones during the event at the Heroes Monument in the Philippine capital. The group also renewed their calls for answers on the whereabouts of the nearly 2,000 people who disappeared from the years of Marcos' administration until the end of Rodrigo Duterte's term. During Tuesday's event, the group also denounced the first case of abduction and disappearance under the new administration of Ferdinand Marcos' son. An informal meeting of the foreign ministers of the European Union has started in Prague. They will review, among other issues, the ban on visas for Russian citizens and an intervention on electric utilities. Led by Commission Chairwoman Ursula von der Leyen and the German Vice Chancellor Robert Habeck, they will be discussing solutions to the serious crisis of Europe's electricity companies. August saw record-high electricity prices in all the Eurogroup countries. On the other hand, at the request of the President Volodymyr Zelensky on the veto on Russian passports will also be discussed, although several spokespersons have advanced that it will be very complicated since it could mean a violation of the Geneva Pacts. Now we move on to other topics. Global COVID-19 cases surpassed 600 million, with the death toll exceeding 6.48 million, according to the Center for Systems and Engineering at Johns Hopkins University. The United States recorded over 94.28 million confirmed COVID-19 cases nationwide, and the death toll surpassing 1.04 million as of Tuesday, followed by Japan with nearly 96,000 new cases. The country also reported 233 daily COVID-19 fatalities, bringing the death toll to more than 39,000. Other countries that recorded a high number of new infections were South Korea with more than 100,000 new cases. Malaysia showed nearly 2,000 infections, and Brazil more than 12,000, with 128 deaths in the past 24 hours. And TeleSUR will dedicate its coverage of the Football World Cup Qatar 2022 to the figure of Diego Armando Maradona, who accompanied our crew in the last two World Cups. With the football star, we also toured our continent with the show The Sur de Viajero. We want this tribute to have its own music. With that in mind, we invite you to write or compose a song for TeleSUR's coverage of Qatar 2022 Football World Cup. It will be an original song, never recorded before or published in any media, and free of legal attachments. Record the song in any format, WAV, MP3, even with your cell phone, and send it as an attachment to comunicaciones@telesurtv.net with the following information: author's name, nationality, and the title of the song. The closing date of the call for entries is September 10th, 2022. A jury of prestigious musicians and composers from the region will select the winning piece. The prize will be the recording of the song, a video clip, and the wide diffusion of the work. 1 week after the closing of the call, TeleSUR will announce the results. And we have more news coming up after a final short break, so stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. At least 23 people have died after Iraq's capital descended into chaos over the resignation of an influential Shiite cleric. Supporters of Muqtada Sadr withdrew from Baghdad's Green Zone after he demanded fighting end between rival Shiite forces and the army that left nearly 400 people wounded. The country's military announced a nationwide curfew, and the caretaker premier suspended cabinet sessions in response to the violence. The recent clashes pitched Sadr followers against Shiite factions, with the sides exchanging gunfire across barricades. Moments after Muqtada Sadr's speech was broadcast live on television, his supporters began to leave the Green Zone. Hours later, the army lifted the nationwide curfew. In Palestine, Israeli forces shelled a house on Tuesday, injuring at least 25 Palestinians in the town of Rujayb. According to local media, a large, heavily armed military group from Jerusalem stormed into the eastern city of Nablus and surrounded the house belonging to the Sawalhi family, and then threatened and attacked them with short-range missiles in an attempt to arrest the Palestinians inside. Meanwhile, the head of the emergency and ambulance department of the Palestinian Red Crescent, Ahmad Jibril, reported that 4 villagers sustained live bullet wounds and live ammunition in the vicinity of the house. Likewise, relief units claimed that the Israeli troops fired at an ambulance while it was transporting the wounded. In Kenya, the pre-trial hearing of the appeal filed by Raila Odinga and Martha Karua in a bid to challenge the 2022 election results started on Tuesday. According to the president of the Kenyan Supreme Court, Martha Koome, justices will ponder if the voting machines and technology deployed by the electoral authorities to conduct the 2022 general elections met the standards, and if the equipment provided reliable poll results. A week ago, defeated candidate Raila Odinga's legal team lodged a case alleging that a team working for Deputy President William Ruto hacked into the election system and replaced genuine pictures of polling stations results forms with fake ones, thus increasing Ruto's share of the August 9th vote. Ruto, who was declared president-elect, denied the allegations. The Supreme Court must rule by September the 5th.
The first issue is whether the technology deployed by IEBC for the conduct of the 2022 general elections met the standards of integrity, verifiability, security, and transparency to guarantee accurate and verifiable results.
The United Nations Humanitarian Affairs Chief, Martin Griffiths, told the Security Council that the people in Afghanistan continue to face extreme hardships and uncertainty. The UN official said that close to 19 million people are facing acute levels of food insecurity, including 6 million people at risk of famine. Some 24 million people, which account for half the country's population, need humanitarian assistance, and an estimated 3 million children are acutely malnourished. The humanitarian affairs chief stressed that Afghanistan's crisis is not only a humanitarian one, but an economic, climate, hunger, and financial crisis. However, he said it is not a hopeless crisis. China criticized the Australia-UK-US Trilateral Nuclear Submarine Cooperation AUKUS during the 10th review conference of the parties to the Treaty of the Non-Proliferation of Nuclear Weapons and worked to include this issue in the draft final document. China's Foreign Ministry spokesperson Zhao Lijian said Monday at a press meeting in Beijing that the US, the UK, and Australia had no reason to obstruct China's proposal to establish an open and inclusive intergovernmental discussion process regarding the AUKUS nuclear submarine cooperation. The Chinese official ratified a nuclear submarine cooperation between the US, the UK, and Australia could pose grave nuclear proliferation risks. Now we move on to other topics. The Ukrainian armed forces have shelled the central territory of Zaporiya on Tuesday, where the largest nuclear power plant in Europe is located. This happens on the eve of a visit scheduled by the International Atomic Energy Agency. Ecuador authorities claim that forces loyal to Kiev attacked the area with a large caliber artillery. Near the spent fuel storage building, 2 explosions have been recorded. Through text messaging, authorities have asked the population to take shelter from the attacks of the Kiev formations. They claim that this is an attempt by the Ukrainian government to disrupt the visit by the nuclear agency. This visit had been repeatedly requested by Russia to dismantle the lie, in the words of Volodymyr Zelensky's government. TeleSUR English continues to grow. Its signal now reaches Europe. You can order it from your cable dealer or tune it yourself. These parameters that you see on the screen are in place since July 1st. Quite soon, further changes will be implemented for the signals in the Middle East and Africa. Now more than ever, the world connects to us and our stories are heard in other farther away nations. This news multi-platform will continue providing truthful content to oppose the hegemonic media's narrative and our faithfulness to our audience. So we have come to the end of this news brief. Remember, you can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. And also, if you feel so inclined, please join us on social media for all the latest news. We are on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Telegram. And now you can also follow us on TikTok account at TeleSUR English, in which you will be able to see news in different formats, news updates, and more. For TeleSUR English, I'm Gladys Quesada. Thank you for watching.